Mishnah and Tesvav. It's Kachim Mizbeach. It's a new parak. Kachim Mizbeach Mishtar from Zeh and Zeh L'Meilah. L'chayev Alei Mishum Pigel Nais V'Tamei. Kachim Mizbeach means sacrifices. The rule is that for many halachas, many violations, it needs to be a kazayas. So an example is Meilah. It would need to be a kazayas of Meilah. There's another in the Gemara. It's going to say that maybe Meilah is the Shava Pruta, and what maybe this is. Well, it could be a kazayas or a Shava Pruta. So
starting the fourth parak.
So it could be that we're talking about it's mitzdaref to the Shava Pruta. Let's say. Then we have these other halachas of Pigel Neiser and Tamei. Oh, wow.
And you have 10 minutes to eat
2 days Rosh Hashanah. So, Pigel, the wrong thoughts. Neiser, it's left over. Or Tamei. The carbon became Tamei. And this person is going to eat them. And it's only going to be chayiv if it's a kazayat. The next thing that is not mentioned in the Mishnah is that also the same halacha would apply to Meilah Bachutz. If someone offers the sacrifice outside the temple, so he'd be chayiv only if it's kazayas. So everything, all sacrifices would combine to the kazayas. Okay. Someone just tell me when it's 6 o'clock, so I can stop.
6:02.
What? 6 or 7?
6:02, yeah, whatever.
Okay, something like that. But before is better than later. Okay. Kachi b'da kabayas mitzdarf mizeh mizeh. Now it says kachi b'da kabayas could be mitzdarf. Now that would only be Meilah, because there is no Pigel Neiser and Tamei by Kachi b'da kabayas. These are things that are donated to the temple. Now it says echad kachim. Actually, we're supposed to leave out the word echad, and it's supposed to go like this: Kachim mizbeach, Kachi b'da kabayas mitzdarf mizeh Meilah. You can take both of them together, sacrifices and b'da kabayas, and that will also add up to the kazayas for Meilah.
The Shve Pruta or kazayas?
Whatever
Is it
Meilah is.
When
We'll
you
have
say
to see
adding up to
Adaf
kazayas for me mean to be over Meilah.
to violate Meilah.
Sorry, I always got
Yeah, that's the confusing thing.
Also, what happens if you just take a half a piece of this and then a little later you take a half a piece of that? Is there a time on it?
So we said that Meilah could be even a year later, right?
Yeah.
I think we had a Gemara like that. Okay, Gemara says Hashta Yesh Laimar Diktani. Now that we've taught, let's leave out the Echad again. Kachim Mizbeach and Kachim b'da kabayas, that they join together. For Meilah, I can join sacrifices and b'da kabayas. The high kedush saguf, the high kedushas damim. The two different types of sanctifications. One is a sacrifice, and one is money. Just a value. Nevertheless, the two separate ones can combine. Kachim Mizbeach and Kachim Mizbeach mibai. So it has to tell me that it combines itself. If I can combine Kachim b'da kabayas with Kachim Mizbeach to be the equivalent of an olive size for the violation of Meilah, so don't you think Kachim Mizbeach itself should be able to combine for the kazay? If I can use other things to combine, so why does it have to say Kachim Mizbeach? In other words, we had 3 cases in the Mishnah. Kachim Mizbeach combines with Kachim Mizbeach. Kachim b'da kabayas combines with Kachim b'da kabayas. And Kachim b'da kabayas combines with Kachim Mizbeach. So if you have the last case, so you have the first 2. Where it says Mishum Diktani Allah Chayev Aleya Mishum Pigel Neiser V'Tamei Kachim b'da kabayas light. Where actually the main point was not the Meilah. The main point was Pigel Neiser and Tamei, which is only by Kachim Mizbeach. So I wanted to say that Kachi Mizbeach has Pigel Neiser and Tamei, not Kachi Bedek Abayas. So once it divided that up, then it says, but from Eily you can combine them both. So that's why it said them in separate clauses. Mishum Hachi Kapaligle. That's why it divides it up. Okay, now we have a statement from Rabbi that's going to throw us off a little bit, and until the end of the page we're going to be dealing with it. Rabbi Yanai is above Rabbi Yochanan on the chart, if you see it there. They go to the next chart, on the Talmud chart. You have to go to the left side, and on the top. He was a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan, I think. He says like this. Machvarta means it's clear. The word chiver means white. Machvarta, it's clear that ein chayav mishum meila el al kachi bedek abayas bilvad. You skipped the word Eily, apparently. There's no meila on kachi mizbeach. There's only meila on kachi bedek abayas. Yeah. My timer. What's the reason for this? The Amakra nefesh kisimel maal mikachi Hashem. Pasuk says if a person will violate what's sanctified to God, it says kachma michadam laHashem. It has to be things that are sanctified to God. Yesh ben mehila. Those are the ones that have mehila. Aval kachim mizbeach. But sacrifices ispul l'kayanim ispul l'bailim. Some sacrifices go to the kayanim, some go to the bailim. There's no mehila on that. It's only things that are kachi Hashem. Okay, this is going to throw us off because we have so many mishnayos and everything that we were just talking. It just messes up everything. So Tanan, we have our Mishnah. Kachim Mizbech, Mistar from Zem Zalamila. It says it's Mistar from Meilah. So what do you mean there's no Meilah? Of course there's Meilah. It's combined from Meilah. So it says Midarabanan. That's all. That's our Mishnah's rabbinic Meilah. It's not a real Meilah. All right. We can go through the whole Torah like this, you know. So Kachim Sheshachta Madar Meilam. We have our first Mishnah that says even if it wasn't done correctly, but there still is Meilah. That's our first Mishnah. If it was slaughtered on the south instead of on the north, where it says Midarabanan. That's only rabbinic. Someone has a na from a living animal, so there's no Meilah unless he decreases its value. Not just if he gets benefit from it, he has to decrease the value of the animal by making a pagam in it, taking something off it. However, kshimesa, once it's dead, kivit shenana kol shumal, then even if he doesn't decrease the value of the animal, there's already Meilah. It has to do with it. If there's a pidyon, if you can redeem it, then it would have to be able to lower its value, to diminish its value. If there's no redemption because it's dead, then then there's Meilah even without diminishing its value. Just sitting on it, or I don't know, whatever it is. So we see that there is Meilah, at least if you diminish its value, and this is a chatas. The Gemara says midarabanan. Okay, this is like we'll go on. The Gemara says midaraisa light. There's no Meilah midaraisa on a karban. V'atanya we have a brisa. Rabbi Yomer. Rabbi says kol chelav laHashem l'Rabbi simari kachim kalim l'Meilah. This is coming to include that there is Meilah by kachim kalim, a murei kachim kalim. This is the parts of the animal that go on the mizbeach. The Gemara says midarabanan.
Stuck on this one chart.
You know, so you can never prove it because you can always say that it's just midrabanan. Gemara says, well, now you're sort of stuck because v'ha'krakan nasavla. Rebbe just brought a pasuk, kol chelav laHashem. And what are you going to do now if you have a pasuk? So what do you mean it's midrabanan? So we're really not stuck because we can get out of this also. Asmachta ba'almei. That's just a asmachta. Asmachta means that it's a support from a pasuk, which, according to some commentaries, means that even though it's a biblical law, but
it's not direct.
Even though it's a rabbinic law, but it was easier to remember the rabbinic law if it was associated, if it was referenced by a pasuk, because people knew the psukim. It was just like association. You could put it in it.
From Nach, more so than Chumash?
Not necessarily. From Nach, we would have quoted something else. We would have said, maybe divrei Kabbalah. Nach in the Gemara is called Kabbalah. He would have said, maybe you can't learn from the words of Kabbalah and of the Nevi'im. So we say it's asmach. It's just a support. It says v'amar Ula amar Rabbi Yechanan kachim shemeisa yasim midei Meilah dvar Torah. Okay, this is a problem. Ula says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan that kachim that died. There's no more Meilah dvar Torah. So b'mai, what are we talking about? Eily b'kachi bedek Bais. You see, he didn't say kachim mizbeach. He just said kachim. If we're talking about bedek Bais, things that belong to the temple, afilu kimesunami lo yehei ela daktish ashpa lebedek Bais, lavis be Meilah. You see, if it's kachim bedek Bais, so why does it go out from Meilah? The temple can own anything that you want. You can give to the temple. For a sacrifice, you have to be specific. But someone could be makdash's garbage to the temple, and somehow they'll make a business out of it, and they'll recycling or something, compost. So why should it go out of Meilah if it still has value? So what does it mean that kachim that die have value? Well, a kachim is be'ah, have Meilah. It must be that it's a real sacrifice. And so our question is, he says dvar Torah, it goes out from Meilah. That means there must have been Meilah there. The Raisim Yisbu Meilah, is there Meilah there? On the Kachim Mizbeach, or Rabbi Yanai says there's no Meilah. Ela hachi ka amri, debei Rabbi Yanai. Oh, now it's debei Rabbi Yanai.
Now it's just
This is what
the
house of Rabbi Yanai said. Okay,
Rabbi Yanai too.
whatever. Mehaikra, from that pasuk of Nefesh Kisimol, Mikache Hashem, from that pasuk, Bedek Habayis Sheminan Minei. Kachi Bedek Habayis Sheminan Minei. We only learn Kachi Bedek Habayis. Kachi Mizbeach Lei Sheminan Minei. We don't learn Kachi Mizbeach from that pasuk. But we do have another pasuk for it. So he didn't mean, when he said, Machvarte in Chem Shemila al Kachi Bedek Habayis, my time Adam Akra. In other words, from the pasuk of Nefesh Kisimol, we only have that source. But it doesn't mean that there's no Meilah by Kachim Mizbeach. There is Meilah by Kachim Mizbeach. Now that we've clarified that, we can go back to all the Mishnayos and redo them.
Sorry, I didn't get this last piece.
His point is that we didn't understand what Rabbi Yanai meant to say. He didn't mean to say that there's only Meilah by Bedek Habayis. He meant to say that from that pasuk, we only have Meilah by Bedek Habayis.
After we were sweating it through. Because of this last piece. Because of this last piece.
Because of Rabbi Yechanan, that's what pushed us to say this. So what's the other pasuk? Maybe the other pasuk is Kol Chelev from Rabbi.
Okay.
Maybe.
I thought that the rabbinical was not called Meilah, but just that you can't have benefit.
Right.
So I'm confused with the use of the word Meilah.
Let's take a look. You're right. We had that before, by the way. And I was wondering if you were going to get stuck on this on Rosh Hashanah. We spoke about milk. Being Meilah by milk. We said before, several days ago, that there's no Meilah by the milk.
There's no, you just can't benefit from
And then we said that the animal can't nurse from its mother if it's Meiser, right? So it sounds like there is Meilah by milk. So it's saying that it was only Midrabanan. The problem was that it used the term Meilah.
Asmachta.
So
it didn't really mean Meilah.
It didn't really mean Meilah.
As we use it.
Right. It was just the term Meilah that you shouldn't. So it throws you off, but it's a problem.
But we did differentiate between Hana and Meilah.
Yeah, Leinanen means that you can't have Hana. That's Midrabanan. But it's not Meilah, it's not the biblical Meilah.
So what's the difference between that and Meilah Midrabanan?
That's what I was asking you. That's the problem. Because to be more accurate, it should have said Leinanen. That's what it should have said. Okay.
5 minutes, just.
Okay.
Jeff, can we get a drink? L'chaim.
The Mishnah, Chamisha Dvarim Ba'ila Mistartim Zem Zeh. 5 things by an Eila sacrifice combined to be chayev for whatever the halachas are that we're going to be, that you could possibly discuss, which is maybe you offered it outside the temple, maybe it's Pigel Neiser Tameh, maybe it's Me'ila. What are the 5 things? The 5 things are a basar, the flesh, chelev is the fat, seilas is the flour that comes along with the minchas nesachim, with the what do we say on Shemini Esrei? Minchas miniskeim k'medubar, the mincha and the nesachim, and the yayin and the shemen, the wine and the oil. Okay, those are the 5 things.
What happens with the bread that they bring with it?
Those, that we'll see. Most sacrifices don't have bread that comes along with it. Most of them would just have the nesachim, which is a mixture of flour and oil. But actual loaves, that's only by like a taida or a nazir. They have actual loaves. Oh, so we'll see in the next.
Why
next
shouldn't it be
reference.
included in the
Well,
flour?
I'm saying why is that? That's what I'm asking.
I'm saying, but you're on the there.
You bring in the oil, bring the bread.
But you bring in the flour,
Yes, I-
so the bread's automatically.
Let's see, v'shisha b'taida. And then there's 6 things by a taida. It says habasar v'achela v'seilas v'yayin v'shemen. So far so good. V'halachem. And the bread.
Now they added it. Okay.
So what was the seilas? The seilas was the nesachim, and the lechem is the bread and the loaves that come along with the carbon taida. Masni le Rav Huna l'Rava. Okay, there was an addition over here. The Rav Huna l'Rabba Berei. That's how the Shita Mekubetzes has it. Rav Huna taught his son, Rabba bar Rav Huna. You see Rav Huna up there? Rav Huna's under Rav, student of Rav. It's on the right side.
Yeah.
Does it say Rabba bar
left side.
Rav Huna?
So it says Rav Huna.
Okay.
But he's under Rav.
He's under Rav. Does he have a son there?
Does who have a son?
Rav Huna.
Rav Huna is the son of Rav Chisda.
A student of his.
Oh, well,
The son would be a broken line.
no.
Okay. So whatever it is, but Rav Huna probably didn't teach Rava. That's a big jump. Chamisha dvarim mitzdarfim zeh mzeh. I'm sorry, I missed the main word. Chamisha dvarim ba'elam mitzdarfim zeh mzeh. Rav Huna says that there's only 5 things in the world that could combine one with another. That's how our Mishnah says Chamisha dvarim ba'elam. And Rav Huna taught it to his son, whoever it was, ba'elam. Okay. So he asked him, Amalei ba'ilam kamret. You say, ba'ilam. V'ktani b'taida, vav dvarim sheb'taida, habasar v'hachelev, it should be v'aselas v'yayin v'ashem v'lach mitaida. You can't say that there's 5 things that are possible to have a combination, because then you just go ahead and say that there are 6 things. Now, that's the way Tosfos learns, that's the way Rashi learns in his first shot. The second shot of Rashi is that maybe he thought that he was talking about chulin as well, and then when he comes along and he tells him that there's 6 things by a taida that combine, and we say, you see, we're talking about kachim, not chulin. Whatever, that's the second shot.
And
it's not right.
Blood is not.
So that's a good point. They mentioned that blood is not counted because there's no me'ilah by the blood. If you remember, we said it was only me'ilah by was only Meilah after it was washed off. Remember?
It went into that pit.
After it goes down the
You
stream.
have to catch it.
No, that was the wine in the pit.
Oh my God.
The blood only was after it was washed off and went down the valley. We said it was machmir. It was against the chumrah afterwards.
Yeah.
But it ended once it, that was the point, right?
But there was
no
rabbinic.
after it
There was
went down the valley.
yeah,
So
but
there
that
was till, but not after, that was the end.
no.
So, no?
There was only Meilah after it was sprinkled when it came down the stream, but not
Right,
beforehand.
right. Right.
Not beforehand, and even that Meilah was only rabbinic.
Where's the film?
But then it ended. Once it got down to the valley. Didn't it say
No,
that?
but I think that we have another source that says that the people, the farmers down there, would have to pay for it.
Really?
So Amalei Tini Ba'oila. Teach it different. He says, teach it that it's Ba'oila. That's the way we have it in our Mishnah. There's 5 things in an Oila. Okay. Tanina Lahadatan Rabbanon. We have a Brisa that says the same thing that our Mishnah says. Oiles ve'imurin mitzdarfen lekazayas. The Oila and the limbs of the Oila combined to a kazayas, la'leisan bachutz. If someone offers them outside the temple, which is a prohibition, you can't offer it. And l'chayev aleim mishum pigul neiser v'tamei, and also for pigul neiser and tamei. Now, when we say oila, it sounds like it's specifically an oila. Katani ba'oila in shlamim loy. It sounds like an oila, but not a peace offering, not a shlamim. B'shlamim la'leisan bachutz. If we're talking about offering it outside the temple, oila the kalal an oila that's entirely burnt. So yes, mitzdarfen. So all parts of it, the flesh and the limbs will all combine, because the only time that you can violate offering a sacrifice outside the temple is if you offer what's meant to be offered outside the temple, but not things that are not meant to be offered. Because if you're going to burn the flesh outside the temple from a sacrifice that the flesh is eaten, that's not considered offering the sacrifice outside the temple. It has to be exactly the way it would have been in the temple. So the oila is entirely burnt in the temple. So therefore, all parts of it will be, if it's burnt outside the temple, will be that prohibition. But shlamim leimistarfen, but shlamim won't combine, because the flesh of the shlamim is eaten. And so if you're going to burn that on a private altar, that's not the prohibition.
Why are they concerned about these combinations? Are they concerned like you're going to cheat and have with a little bite here, a little bite there, a little bite there?
I don't know if that was a concern. That's also a concern, but I think it was if the prohibition was done, if the person gets the malchus or the kares, or he has to know what he did, how much of it.
Even if he says, "I just took a little bite," it wasn't even a kazais. We say, "Well, but you had the kazais of that one, so together it combines."
Right. Now, we have in the speed limits, so we have a set number, whatever it is, 30, 35, 55, 60, whatever the speed limit is. But it's not really set. There's people that believe that you automatically have like certain amounts over. Like, I don't know how they think that, but
It's an unspoken rule.
yeah. No, you don't have that. It's just that the police don't want to argue with you probably about the little bits, and they let it pass. I assume. Or maybe their things aren't perfect.
That's their worry.
Let's say how they can't. There's an error.
Their calibration may not be provable, but now they
Right.
throw their entire book out.
Right. So they give you that. Anyway, in the laws in the Torah, so there's like these limits. It's a kazayas or this. So we have to know what adds up to that amount. I don't know if they were actually going to, like, because it's before Yom Kippur, everyone's thinking like people that are ill, they're going to eat this amount every 9 minutes. They're going to eat like smaller amounts, So they can eat, and they also avoid the laws of eating on Yom Kippur. That's the solution for someone that's ill. They're not allowed to fast.
Right.
So they don't just go eat a sandwich. They break it up. So you go under the
Radar.
yeah, it's under the
Under
prohibition.
boardwalk.
Okay.
It's a good analogy.
That's an old one.
Oh yeah, you're gonna fast, right?
Yeah. You heard actually, we had Achterboy.
Yeah.
After boy.
I'm Rav Achterboy. Oh, Rav Achterboy Barami.
No, that's after
his
boy
name now.
right there.
Achterboy. We were saying,
Yes, his new nickname.
That's his new nickname, is Achterboy.
So we're asking, but what about the shlamim? Oh, one second, I didn't clarify. So we said, but pigel nice and tummy, there should be the obligation, the prohibition on the shlamim as well. What's the difference of shlamim? There's pigel on the shlamim, on the meat. Why are we saying that it's only by an oila that everything combines? Vatanan, kol apigulim mitzdarfim zemzeh, v'chol hanoisros mitzdarfim zumzu. All pigel combines and all noiser combines. Why are we saying it's only by an oila? Shlamim should have the same thing. Eleima oila v'emerem mitzdarfim zemzeh lekazayas lizorik leima sadam. We have a different story over here. We're talking about if the meat disappears, and we didn't sprinkle the blood yet. We're discussing if you can still sprinkle the blood when you don't have enough left to be matir with the sprinkling of the blood. So we say that by an oila, you can use the combination of the meat and the organs that are put on the limbs that are put on the altar to combine that's enough to sprinkle the blood. Why? Because they both have the same function. They're all burnt. They all have the same end, that they're all burnt and it's not eaten. To keep in the mitzvah from Lizarika Saddam, and once they combine for the Zrika Saddam, what's this dalit? We're supposed to take that out. Uman, the Gemara asks, Man Katanila. Who teaches this? It says Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua. This is Rabbi Yeshua.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding how blood can combine because there's a requirement.
No, the blood is not combining.
You get splash on both sides.
No, we're not combining the blood. What we're saying is that if the whole animal disappears, you don't sprinkle the blood because the blood is a matir for the rest of the animal. But if you don't have a kazayas left of the animal, then you don't sprinkle the blood. Let's say you have a kazayas only of combined parts of the animal. Part of it goes on the altar and part of it is supposed to be eaten. That's not counted as a kazayas. But by an oila, because the whole animal goes on the altar, so the whole animal can combine. That's considered that there is still the animal remaining.
So there's no zrika on an ola?
There is zrika on an oila, but that's to usually a sacrifice has two eatings, the consumption. It's consumed by the altar and it's also consumed by the person. But by an oila, there's only one consumption.
I thought there's no consumption.
The altar.
The altar consumption.
Oh, the altar
Yeah.
consumption.
Consumption.
So the zrika is before the all goes up?
Yeah. First they do this, the zrika, then they bring it up. And this is Rabbi Yeshua. I forget. Rabbi Eliezer argues. Let's see. Let's read through, and maybe Rabbi Eliezer will. Yeah. Rabbi Eliezer holds that you sprinkle even if there is no flesh. He says you can sprinkle it even without any flesh. And Rabbi Yeshua argues. Titania, it was taught in the Bais. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer Kol Hazvachim Shabbatayra, all sacrifices. Shenishtayim em kazayis basa kazayis chaylev, that there's leftover flesh and fat. Zoyrek esadam, you can sprinkle the blood. But let's say kechatzi zayis basa, kechatzi zayis chaylev. There's only half a zayis of the flesh and half a zayis of the fat of the meat, and half a zayis of the fat. The fat would go on the altar, the meat would be eaten. So ein zoyrek esadam. It doesn't combine because those are two different consumptions. Uba'ila afilu k'chatzayis basar k'chatzayis chaylev zerkas adam mipnei shekula kalo. Since it's all burnt, Rabbi Yeshua agrees that the fat and the meat combine to be the kazayas, so you can still sprinkle the blood.
So when did he say that it could?
When did we say
No,
that
when did he say that they do?
that you do combine or you don't
When
combine?
When
You do combine by an Eily.
because
Half a zayas because it's kula kala. It all goes on the altar. But by other sacrifices, it won't combine because it's he divides up the types of eating. And then he says, however, b'mincha afilu kula kayemas le'yizrik. Mincha, even if the whole mincha is there, you don't sprinkle the blood. 1 second. Mincha mayavidite. What do you have? Where's the blood by the mincha? What are you talking about? This. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Papa minchas nesachem. You see, let's say the whole animal disappears, but you still have the mincha here that needs to be offered because the nesachem. So even if the whole mincha is here, you can't sprinkle the blood. Just to allow the mincha to be finished its process.
So you first have to finish the mincha.
So you really need, in order for the mincha to be offered, you need the carbon itself, the process to be done. You can't just sprinkle the blood if you don't have the meat or the organs that need to go on the altar.
What do you mean it disappears?